Hey guys, this is Ryan from Us Without Meltdown. Wanted to talk today about just our goals in fitness and weight training and how they can change over time because I can tell you my goals as a young man are very different than they are now or even maybe like 10 years ago. So I will extract some like moral of the story as we go along. But um, yeah, just starting out with my story, like I always thought I just wanted to be thin because I was a chubby kid. I got teased a little bit, had bad skin and all that. And as best I could tell, all the popular kids, were more of a thin or just normal body type. So over one summer in high school, I kind of crash dieted and did a bunch of cardio through hiking. I'm not recommending this. I'm just telling you what I did. Um, and I lost a good bit of weight, probably 20, 30 pounds. And then I reached that point where I did look like just kind of this thin, like rock star kind of body where there's no muscle. There's not even any like definition. It's just a thin person. I would say skinny fat, but I wasn't really fat. It was just skinny. Um, and I think around that time I had started watching Toonami on Cartoon Network, which if you are a younger person, that's just like when we were first able to really watch anime on TV, and that's where everyone watched Dragon Ball, which is still popular now. But um, so even back then, like 20 years ago, however many years ago, um, people were still inspired by the Dragon Ball like crazy bodies because that was definitely me. I was working out, doing body weight exercises, watching Dragon Ball. And from there, I'd always been into pro wrestling as a kid, and I looked to the wrestlers and was like, oh, there's an impressive body. And the same thing with like action movies. I got really into watching Van Damme movies and Arnold, which then eventually led to watching Pumping Iron. But I would say I went from wanting to be skinny to wanting to be like still pretty darn jacked because like Van Damme and those guys, even though they're not built like monster bodybuilders, they have insane bodies. And then at some point, I decided that like I would love to just be a mass monster, which thankfully I never pursued, too hardcore, but just like in my mind, I really wanted to be like a shredded, 230 pounds of muscle, 250 pounds, whatever it would be. Like I had a bunch of Jay Cutler videos and all that. I had, friends that were like pretty heavily into bodybuilding, and I wasn't willing, I guess, to do everything necessary to get there, but just in my mind is like a daydream and something I fantasized about. Like I just wish I could be that big. And I guess getting to the point in the video is that in retrospect, like now that sounds just horrible. Being like now where I'm like anywhere between 180 to 190, and I like to be really active with hiking and just being outdoors. I can remember even just being younger and trying to do some of that same stuff, weighing 210 all the way up to 230. It was just a lot more difficult to carry around that weight. And just in general, you're sweating more all the time. Yeah, you're spending more money on food and eating more, obviously. But it's just, I don't know. It is fun to be a big, strong guy, and you do get a lot of attention for it. So I couldn't discourage someone from pursuing that at some point in their life. But as far as making like a lifelong goal, I don't, I don't get how people do that, or like how like The Rock is walking around at like his biggest ever when he's 50 something years old. Like that's just crazy to me. I mean, my hat's off to him, but just I cannot imagine that. It seems so uncomfortable to me. Um, but I guess my point with all this is that you can see how my goals went from just like wanting to be just a skinny person who doesn't even have muscle to then thinking I want to be, this pro bodybuilder level of muscle to now where I'm probably closer to where I was back at the beginning, thinking, like Van Damme, these guys look pretty good where they're. I'm not saying I look as good as Van Damme, but I'm just saying some muscle development, but mostly just, lean and nice to look at, not crazy big, right? And now I'm totally happy with my body. And if you told me that when I was younger, I probably would have, said you're nuts. That's not going to motivate me. I don't want to look like that. Because at that point I was already quite a bit larger than I am now. I didn't have as much definition because I didn't understand how to stop eating food or do cardio. But I definitely had a good 20, maybe even 30 pounds more muscle than I have now. So tell me that you're going to just look small but ripped when you're older, I would have been insulted. But in reality, it's awesome. Like, I like it quite a bit. And I wouldn't want to be more than, probably 5-10 pounds heavier than this. I think it would probably be uncomfortable. So, yeah, the takeaway is just that your goals are going to change. And I guess what I really want you to read between the lines here is that, let's say, for example, you are someone who thinks you want to go into bodybuilding. I mean, at some point, if you are really serious about it and you want to go to a high level, there's, decisions you have to make about taking drugs and force feeding yourself to get this superhuman size. But you just need to be aware that, who knows, maybe in 5-10 years that won't be appealing to you at all. And yet you're going to have done all that damage to your body potentially. So I kind of think the best strategy is, as obvious as it might sound, just to do your best day by day. And it's great to have a goal, but really the real goal, instead of, gaining X pounds of muscle, or I'm going to get to this percent body fat, should just be, what? I'm going to do my best. And, by this checkpoint, I want to see, like, how good can I get? Whether it's in terms of, conditioning or how much muscle and strength you've gained. But instead of, like, thinking you can control reality to this extreme extent with, like, quantifying everything, I would just say, aim to do your best, because there is some chance you might, land far beyond what you imagine. But most of the time, people are actually pretty delusional and think we can achieve way beyond what's possible, because we don't understand the genetic variation and just everything that goes into, like, getting crazy results from all this stuff. What Coach Greg says, close your eyes, imagine your dream body, and then settle for the halfway point to there. And that's pretty fair. Maybe you can get 2/3 the way there, and that's even better. But yeah, don't get dead set on any one goal. I want to say, just, I feel corny saying it, but yeah, just do your best, and you're going to find that where you land, even though if on paper it didn't sound appealing however many years ago, however many weeks ago, you're probably going to be really happy with it and proud of yourself, and going to be grateful that you didn't maybe take any shortcuts that could have put you in a bad position. So I've rambled quite a bit. I think that's good enough for today. I will talk to you guys next time.